As we continue the series in the long anticipation for the 40th anniversary of WrestleMania, up next is WrestleMania VII at the L.A. Sports Arena, which took place on March 24, 1991. The arena held 16,158 in attendance with a 400,000 pay-per-view buy, a buy less than that of the Royal Rumble, 91. Commentators include Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan, along with interviewers Gene Okerlund and Sean Mooney. Like previous WrestleManias, celebrities were brought in attendance or to be part of the show, such as Regis Phlibin, Alex Trebek, Willie Nelson, George Steinbrenner, Paul Maguire, Macaulay Culkin, Donald Trump and Maria Maples, Lou Ferrigno, Chuck Norris, Henry Winkley, and Joe Jusko. The big sell was the Iraqi sympathiser WWF Champion Sgt. Slaughter defending his title against the All-American Hulk Hogan. Slaughter had returned to the WWF around SummerSlam 1990 from his long absence and affiliation with G.I. Joe, and turned on America. He later won the WWF Championship from the Ultimate Warrior at the Royal Rumble in '91. Fans were in shock and silent, with a bad taste in the mouth, as during this time the United States was involved in an aerial bombardment of Iraq. This led to Hulk Hogan becoming the challenger for the title. Originally meant to be held at the L.A. Coliseum, concern about handling security and the possibility of not selling out due to war and economic uncertainty led to the change of the venue. Lack of advance ticket sales was apparent, as the main event was seen in poor taste that even NBC's Bob Costas canceled his appearance to the show due to it. Another big match was the Ultimate Warrior, who took on Randy Macho King Savage in a career-ending match. The card itself could be better compared to last year. We attempt to make a much different WrestleMania VII, including changing the big sell into a double main event, in hope that this would have justified hiring more security and managed to sell 100,000 tickets. British Bulldog and the Texas Tornado versus Sergeant Slaughter and General Adnan in a tag match. In order to get the Gulf War storyline out of the way quickly, this match opens up WrestleMania. The Bulldog and Kerry join forces in an Allied Powers-style coalition to take out the Iraqi sympathizers, and on their side is the return of Ricky, the Dragon, Steamboat. The Bulldog pins Slaughter after a powerslam for the finish, and they wave American flags around in victory. Slaughter does not ever win the WWF title, even with the heat he had. Tito Santana versus Jimmy Superfly Snuka in a singles match. In this timeline, Snuka turns heel at the Survivor Series, getting into an altercation with Tito and reveals his frustrations with how he has been treated in the WWF since his return, believing he should have a top spot, and instead Jack Tunney has turned a blind eye to him because he was from Fiji. Tito tries to remind all the good Snuka has done over the years and even gives him fan letters. Snuka tears apart the letters and attacks Tito, leading to a match at WrestleMania. Snuka wins against Tito with the Superfly splash from the top rope. In a post-match promo, Snuka says that he wants a shot at the gold. Ted DiBiase, C. versus Virgil for the $1 Million Championship. Weeks ago, Virgil on TV asked for a raise for the first time, something Roddy Piper had suggested to him, and DiBiase refused to give him a raise, leading Virgil to quit and make a challenge. Virgil gets training by Piper and manages to get in a small cradle to win the title and celebrates backstage with several superstars. The Undertaker versus Tugboat in a singles match. The Undertaker made his debut at the Survivor Series, and at the Royal Rumble, he throws out Tugboat, leading to Tugboat rolling back in and throwing Taker to the outside. Already feuding in house shows, they meet for a final confrontation with Undertaker triumphing with an impressive tombstone piledriver on the big guy. Demolition, C. versus the Legion of Doom for the WWF Tag Team Championships. The Demolition managed to win the titles off of the Hart Foundation weeks ago, disbanding that tag team. Negotiations with Axe's return go well for WrestleMania. Crush is barred from ringside by President Jack Tunney for this match, but is watching closely backstage and shows up for promos. Two of the biggest tag teams of the 1980s clash in a final confrontation, with the Legion of Doom gaining the victory clean on Axe with the Doomsday Device finisher. Backstage, Crush and Smash both beat down on Axe for losing the match, leading to a face turn for Axe when the Legion of Doom intervene. Jake the Snake Roberts versus Rick the Model Martel in a blindfold match. We leave this match alone. At the time it was unique, with Martel blinding Jake with arrogance, and the build-up was fantastic. Jake won the match by pinfall. The Nasty Boys vs. The Rockers in a tag team match. The Nasty Boys go over with Sags pinning Shawn to win the match clean. In a post-match promo, they ask for a shot at the tag titles. Mr. Perfect, C. versus Bret the Hitman Hart for the WWF Intercontinental Championship. Instead of at SummerSlam, we would start Bret's permanent singles run earlier and he makes a challenge for the title. The match ends up in a double countout, as it was meant to make Bret look strong enough to demand a rematch down the road. The Mountie vs. the Big Boss Man in a singles match. Both in Law Enforcement, this was a natural setup to get these two into a match. The Mountie manages to succeed by using a cattle prod to cheat his way to a pinfall. Double Main Event 1. Hulk Hogan vs. Earthquake in a steel cage grudge match. This feud started back in the spring of 1990 when the Earthquake squashed and injured Hulk Hogan on the Brother Love show. Here, Hogan makes a comeback at SummerSlam, however he only wins by DQ thanks to Dino Bravo interfering. Hogan leads a Survivor Series team that loses against Earthquake's team. At the Royal Rumble, both men close the Rumble with Hogan winning it after Earthquake is thrown to the outside hurt, but had never went over the ropes, creating a controversial finish at the Rumble. Weeks before WrestleMania, Jimmy Hart makes an announcement that Andre the Giant has become his new insurance policy. Andre enters the ring and says he would never join with the likes of Hart, knowing how nasty Earthquake truly is. Earthquake attacks Andre, injuring his left leg. This leads to Andre backing Hogan and will be in his corner to make sure there is a winner. Dino Bravo would be in Earthquake's corner to keep an eye out on Andre. The cage match works well. Andre makes sure no one interferes and it lasts over 20 minutes with Hogan finally getting his win by climbing to the outside. The Barbarian and Haku vs. Tenryu and Katao in a tag match. Katao and Tenryu from Japan win the match after a powerbomb on the Barbarian by Tenryu. This was part of WWF's relations with SWS and Japanese promotions back in the day. Double Main Event 2. The Ultimate Warrior, C. vs. the Macho King Randy Savage for the WWF Championship. Randy Savage will retire if he loses the match. Despite Warrior's weaker drawing performance, Warrior remains the champion. He becomes more vulnerable and sells more than he used to. We begin with Savage making a challenge to the Warrior for the title in the fall of 1990. However, Warrior says that Hulk Hogan is the true #1 contender and would give him a shot first if he asks. At the Royal Rumble, Warrior faces off against Mr. Perfect in a title-for-title match, with Perfect winning the match by countout after Savage smashes his scepter over Warrior's head and Warrior rolled to the outside bleeding and unconscious. As the weeks follow, Warrior hasn't been at peak performance, even unable to run properly without feeling his head hurt and blaming Savage's vicious attack for a possible permanent head injury. President Jack Tunney suspends Savage for his actions, a good excuse for his real-life thumb injury. However, Savage says he wants a shot at the title and is willing to put his whole career on the line just for a shot. Warrior accepts the stipulation. The match happens just as it did, with Warrior triumphing in the end, defending his title, and WrestleMania closing off with Miss Elizabeth reuniting with a now-retired Randy Savage after Queen Sherry's betrayal. Alternate Main Event: Hulk Hogan vs. The Ultimate Warrior 2. While most fans would think this would make sense, one would have to go heel for it to work a second time. Hogan had movies and Warrior likely wouldn't do it, though the idea of a rematch is interesting. What do you think of this card? Could it have sold out or at least sold enough tickets at the LA Coliseum? Stay tuned for WrestleMania 8, comment, like, subscribe, and thank you for watching In the Plot.